So Harley, before we start, right? Can we do like the prediction league at the start?
No.
Can we do it like in the middle bit before we do all the other stuff?
No.
I got to wait to the end.
Yes. Same as every week.
Bastard. Okay, let's start the show then. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the WRRAP podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as always is the happy crew, Jamie, Harley, and James. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello. Evening.
It's just a nice sunny evening, isn't it? It's been
Beautiful.
a while since we had it. It's a shame we're finishing the season, really. So let us start as always. Are you sure I can't do prediction league now, Harley?
Yes. And this is getting hammier by the second.
Guess what? A really good week of prediction league. Let's
We'll
start
get
with
into that later.
let's start with drink of the week. So, James, you get to go first this week, mate. What have you got for drink of the week?
So I was in Brighton on the weekend. I had mates leaving due for work, so ended up at this little pub, really sort of like on the back streets, and they had some local stuff on. It was called Sonar, and it was really, really nice session ale. But I sort of looked, you can't find it anywhere. It's a really local thing. So I asked the guy, so what's at the closest thing to it? And he said, if you can find the Beavertown Heavy Gravity. So I'm going for Beavertown Heavy Gravity. It's a hazy IPA, 6.5%. It's nice. Beavertown's a very safe option. Anyway, you got like neck oil is in every pub you go to now. Yeah. It's a very safe option. But let's try it. I haven't actually tried it yet.
I think I had that a while ago.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice. Similar one.
So no, but yeah, Beavertown, great little beer.
Cool. Harley, what have you got this week?
So I've actually got a slightly interesting story for a beer for a change. I'm saying slightly to just make sure your expectations are as low as they need to be. So normally Saturday mornings we go swimming with our little girl. That got cancelled, so we decided to go to Devon County Show. I could just feel James wanting to go, Tory bastard. But I'm sure he'll come up with that name. Anyway, but what I found was a new brewery called Bayes Brewery, and I liked what they had on offer so much. I bought a case of 12 beers mix. And this is the one I wanted to highlight this week, and it's called Funky Monkey. And it's in collaboration with Paint and Zoo in announcement of the new baboon enclosure they've got there. So certain amount of money from every bottle sold goes to Paint and Zoo. And, considering how much my little girl loves Aminors, I felt I'm going to help her out by drinking beer. So just the bollocks on the back. Bayes Brewery has teamed up with Paint and Zoo to brew this limited edition beer celebrating its new baboon exhibit called Hamadryas Hill. Funky Monkey is a copper-coloured pale ale with cheeky citrus character and fruity hoppy notes. Best of all, 5% of the proceeds go towards wildlife conservation. Bayes Brewery is proud to have raised more than £27,000 to help protect endangered species in partnership with Paint and Zoo. Now, it's extra wanky bollocks when it's saying about how great guys we are.
I nearly bought a beer like that earlier, actually. There was a Northern Monk one, same brewery I had last week, that was wanky charity bollocks like that.
Well, as we're talking wanky bollocks, we had a photo in on Twitter over the weekend, where now not only do you get wanky bollocks on the side of the bottle, you get wanky bollocks on the glass as you're drinking it. So this came in from Paul Price, and on the side of the glass, it's got the aroma is a tropical fruit and herbal lemon. I don't know what herbal lemon is, but that's what this beer was. It tastes crisp, clean, and of citrus fruit, and it finishes with a brisk, refreshing citrus. But he's finished the pint before he's actually sent it into us. So all we've got is an empty one. But that's how much it's spreading, where people are now sending us the wanky bollocks off the side of the glass, not just off the bottle. So well done on that. So Jamie, what have you got this week, mate?
I got another beer from Mumbles Brewery, Virginus is called. So it's a hazy, fruity IPA, 4.5%. Now, if we're talking wanky bollocks, I've got a contender for wanky bollocks of the season, right? Have a listen to this. And listen good, because this is quite wanky. Follow the myth. Be moved from the earth to the heavens with a full yet soft and creamy body, delicate bitterness, and the generous blessing of mandarin, tangerine, and strawberry aromas that bloom from the purest entity. That has got to win wanky bollocks of the season, surely.
It's up
Right there. What do you
That's
think?
that's the type of monologue you hear before like Wales v Italy.
Yeah, that's a Michael
But
Sheen level, isn't it?
I'm expecting to see Gabby Logan pop up on the screen now with a thunder candle.
It's not
You-
as fruity as I hoped, though. It's a bit disappointing, this beer. It's okay. But when it says fruity IPA, I want a fruity IPA, and it's not quite fruity enough for me. But it's all right. But that is some seriously wanky bollocks there.
We should do, and when we do end of season awards, and then we got nothing to talk
I was
about
just
for a
about to
few
go.
weeks. Yeah, just we do the wanky bollocks awards. that's off season taken care of.
That's the front winner, that is, surely. That's got to be the front winner, that right there.
I sent the boys a pint last week. Was it last week? Yeah, last week.
I don't know. You
I
drink
said I put the one in that pint, the one in the chat. Anyway, I sent that last week, and it was really, really nice. I nearly went like via that pub on the way home to see if I could get it in like a plastic glass and bring it up, because it's only like a minute and a half walk down the beach to this pub. And the best thing about it, because it always reminds me, and I'm sorry to bring this up, Lee, of the Black Lion game.
Right,
Because,
cheers, mate. Yeah.
because everyone kept going on Twitter saying, "Oh, you lost to a pub. You know, your next like opponents are going to be the Dog and Duck," and that's what this pub is called. So every time I walk past the Dog and Duck, because I have to walk past it to go to rugby as well, I just think, "Oh yeah, Scarlett's going to get like 50 put on them by the Dog and Duck."
We haven't even finished drink of the week, and you're already on it, mate. Right,
Yeah.
Mine is I've gone for a brew dog. I've gone for Wingman, which is a session. What do we mean by a session IPA? IPA to me is an IPA.
They're weaker.
Is that what it
because
is?
you can drink more without falling on the floor.
Yeah.
See, to me, a session is where you go for the hard stuff and you go
A
proper
session
full on.
would be you can drink multiple. Last week I had a fucking 8% one. I'm not having that in a session.
Yeah, I've left my 8% one in the fridge. I'm saving that for a special day. Yeah, this one's only 4.3. So the wanky bollocks on this is the eagle has landed, and that's it. That's nice and simple and straightforward. So yeah, and it is actually quite a clear, light one. It's not bad, but it is quite not a bitter taste to it, but it leaves an aftertaste.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to Jamie's news desk. Jamie, all yours, my friend.
News desk, right. Shall we start with the EDC, which is now the SRC? So, Lee, any thoughts on the rebranding?
Do you know what? This weekend, I gave myself a little jobs list for this weekend, and it was to do the logos for the EDC podcast, yeah? I spoke to the WRU about this last week. I spoke to the media guys from the EDC last week. Nothing. Didn't say fuck all, yeah? And then it was a nice weekend, so I thought, I'll mow the lawn, I'll get my tomatoes out, I'll get some flowers in and all of that kind of stuff. Took the whole weekend, didn't get to do the logos, and then Sunday night they go and change the bloody name. Bastards. Anyway, I haven't done any logos. I just had to change the Twitter handle. So.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, EDC is now SRC, so it's Super Rugby Cymru. So the season will kick off on the second weekend of September with the clubs playing 18 home and away league fixtures in the regular season before progressing to playoff rounds and a grand final. There's going to be a separate competition then called the Super Rugby Cymru Cup, and that's going to be scheduled during the 2025 Six Nations. So remember, there's 10 teams in this competition, and each team will play a minimum of 23 games over the course of the season, with a further trophy available known as the SRC Challenger Shield. The clubs have signed up to a salary cap system that will enable them to spend up to 150 grand on a squad of 32 players although there will be exceptions. Doesn't mention what the exceptions are, but they've got a salary cap of 150 grand. So it was all announced. It's new shiny logos, new branding, Super Rugby Cymru. What do we think of this? I like the look of it, I do, to be honest. What do you guys think?
Yeah, one thing you didn't put on, which actually is a fantastic, probably one of the best things to have ripped off the New Zealand systems. They've got their own version of the Ranfurly Shield, so it's basically gonna be a lineal championship. So it's going to start off with Drovers winning the league last season, and for every home game they've got to defend it. And then if the away team wins, they get the shield, and then they've got to defend it. And then I think there's like a incentive then to be the team who finishes with it at the end of the season. There's a good way to build up rivalries, and that means then every home game there's always going to be something on the line. Or even if you're away and you're not doing well, there's still a chance to get a bit of silverware. They did mention briefly what the exceptions were, but they didn't say how they work. So there's going to be some exceptions for dual registered players, which I presume is if you're, if it's a URC team, so Dragons, Scarlets, whatever, and you're going down for fitness or to get game time, then you get a really salary cap relief. Also, there's going to be relief for players recently released from the senior academy or under 18s, just to try and keep them in the system, which I think is going to be one way where they keep the numbers up above 32, and also a thing for injuries. So, but as I said, they don't say how it works.
What did you say the total amount was, Jim? Did you say it was 150 grand?
150 grand.
That's what it says here, yeah. I got this from the BBC website. So they're saying it's 150k on a squad of 32 players, although there will be exceptions. And it mentions the SRC. So the SRC Challenger Shield. That's a further trophy there.
Yeah.
For 23 games over the course of the season.
So 150 grand divided by 32 is 4,687. That's below junior. Below junior.
This is where you get allocations of academy players.
So academy players are outside of.
So academy players are not employed. Like, so say take Bridgend, for example, now. They're signing Harvey Nash and Ben Burnell, right? From Ponty. So likelihood is Ben Burnell might get offered a contract by Cardiff. So he's employed by Cardiff Rugby, but will be allocated to Bridgend, say. He might not be, he might go back to the Rags. So he wouldn't be paid by Cardiff Rags, he'd be paid by Cardiff Rugby. Harvey Nash, however, who's no longer a professional rugby player, so he got released from his contract by the Ospreys, would be employed by Bridgend. So he'd fall under that salary cap, so he'd be an employee of said club. So it's not 150 grand divided by 32. By 32. It's 150 grand divided by X amount, but the clubs have got to match that funding. This is the thing. So it's not the WRU are giving them 150 grand, but I'm pretty sure they've got to put in a substantial amount of money towards things as well. If I read correct, which I might not have.
No, I did read that as well. They are
to be confusing.
Yeah.
To be confusing, the number I've seen is it's 105.
That's 105 is what I heard.
Yeah, and then obviously some of that salary cap, some of that's for paying staff and whatever, and then I think some overheads over the top. But then there's an agreement with the regions to give allocations of certain players. So I said I think you might see that there'll be a few more Cardiff people going more towards Bridgend, as that's the only other team other than the Rags. Otherwise, the Rags could basically use that 150 grand to buy like 3 or 4 decent semi-pro players and then just fill it with academy.
But because I've spoken to a couple of Scarlets Academy players who are going to Llandudbury, and they're on they're basically just staying on a senior academy contract. So, but that contract will be within that contract now. It's written that they're signed for Llandudbury. So,
but they'll be registered for insurance purposes, won't they?
Yeah. Well, whereas before you could have gone Llandudbury or Carmarthen Quins, and some players have played for Llandudbury for like 4 or 5 games, then gone into the Scarlets and then gone up to.
That would be a permit, not a registration.
Yeah. But that's why it's a bit more kind of. What I will do is I will speak to the guys at the WRU again and go, right, can we have somebody on maybe for our first podcast after I've done the logos and actually got everybody together? we'll do what we want to do for that new podcast is to speak to every team in the off season and just give everybody a bit of a, this is what it's like, this is what the club is like, this is what you can expect, what the ambitions are, and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that bit of it is slowly taking shape, but we might do a very early one on, can somebody explain to us what the rules are, please? That might be an
The
idea.
devil is in the detail, isn't it? That was just a brief overview I give then, but there's a lot more to it than what I said. You have to look it up.
Yeah,
I think it looks really good. I think the branding around it is really good. I like the name Super Rugby Cymru. Don't worry, on the fucking graphics I put out, you do need some sort of like accounting degree to read. Only when they actually released the fixture list did I understand what was going on. But I liked how they've used the flags from different sort of counties around Wales. I like how upfront they've been in terms of salary cap and how each club has to have now a set of coaches that are up to standard, or up to a certain standard. And now I have a theory. This, Harley, you might agree with me and thought the same thing. This is where the Steve Law thing comes in. Obviously, Steve Law got moved on. I think that part of the SRC is developing, and I did Dan said this on Central. Part of this SRC is not only developing players for regional rugby and ultimately international rugby, it's developing coaches as well. So have Cardiff identified, or WRU identified, that Dan Fish could be an attack coach in the future, or it could be a defence coach in the future, even a head coach. So this is the place to cut his teeth more than he has done at Glammy Wanderers or wherever else he's gone. Cardiff
mainly academy. I think he's been Rags attack coach for a while as well. You mentioned Dan spoke about it on the pod, and I think that's the thing. And actually having Josh Turnbull there as well as another development coach. And I think it's a key thing that the director of rugby for the Rags is Gruff Reese and has been for a few years, to sort of signalise, this is gearing it all. This is all about development, whether it's coaches, players. I think even physios, like any, if they've got like a little pathway of physios, so they get people into new training and then they work up and then they eventually go and be Sam's brother's mates for the senior team. There is one thing we haven't quite touched on yet, but one thing I do like is at the end of the season, everyone gets a knockout fixture, which I hate for serious proper leagues, but considering this is a development league, I think it's important that these developing players are given experiences of knockout rugby, so they know what it's like, and having to play a game of saying one drop ball could be the difference between you going through to the next round or getting dropped out. So I think that's quite a good addition, even if it is slightly weird.
You do, but when you come bottom of the table, and I've only ever come bottom of the table once, you do get to that last game of the season, you think, oh, fuck this, that's it, that season done, I'm off now for a couple of weeks, and just to lay low and get a bit of rest and what have you. And then you go, no, we've got a knockout competition for a couple of weeks now as well. I can think of nothing worse if you're bottom of the table having to do that.
That's what you want, though.
Yeah.
As a team, that's what you want and need. If you want to consider yourself a semi-professional gearing towards professional outfit, then you can't just come to the end of the season and go, we're bottom, I can't be fucked anymore. It's great when you're in village rugby, great when you're fucking Div 4 Central West, Axwen versus Gleiss, but it's not as an SRC club where it's not like, all right, you can argue that some clubs have got in by default, but you've had to provide an application to show why you deserve to be there. So you've got to maintain professional standards throughout. So yeah, even if you do finish bottom of the league, you've won 3 games all season, and you've got to go play knockout rugby. That's the whole idea of this league. It's essentially the Premiership. It's essentially the same set as the Gallagher Premiership, right? But playing a few more games. And
without relegation.
Yeah, exactly. The Gallagher Premiership doesn't have relegation, does it?
That's because everybody keeps going bust rather than getting relegated.
He was stopping that ages ago. Anyway.
You've got the Prem Cup essentially.
Yeah.
In that sort, that I mean, that's what all the Welsh fans loved, and they loved the Gallagher Premiership. So they got their wish.
He's stoking it. He's stoking it. Right. What else have we got on the news desk, James?
Right, we got some Cardiff and Wales injury news. So Callum Sheedy is going to be out for a few months after picking up a knee injury on the final day of the season for Bristol against Harlequins. So he left the field in the 37th minute after sustaining a PCL injury. So that means that Sheedy is going to be unavailable for Wales' summer tour of Australia. I will likely make his return to rugby in September, though they're saying it could be longer than that. And Teddy Williams has also undergone shoulder surgery, ruling him out of Wales's summer tour, which is a shame. I have to say, because I'm a big fan of Teddy Williams. And then in other news, let's talk about what happened on Sunday night. So the WRU Executive Director of Rugby, Nigel Walker, he appeared on Scrum 5 on Sunday night, and he was expertly grilled by Lauren Jenkins, who really is the best in the business. Really good interview, actually. So what were the main talking points of this interview? The biggest one, and the one that's doing all the rounds on social media, is cutting the number of regions is still an option. That's being discussed and considered, according to Nigel Walker. So he said, at the moment, we're at 4, and we're going to try and make 4 work for the foreseeable future. But of course, the conversations around reducing the regions from 4 to 3 has to be on the table. He also admitted that the 4.5 playing budgets for next season, he said that's going to be tough. But he said that if we could get our regions to 5.5/6 million, then they could be competitive. That's not to say they'd have the same budget as La Rochelle or Leinster, but they could build a squad, he said. And he also mentioned a uplift in funding in the coming years. He also said that Warren Gatland has the full backing of the WRU. So Walker said that Gatland had the toughest year he's ever had, but he was dealt a bad hand, and they expect results to improve over the next 12 to 18 months. Walker hinted that WRU may review participation in the URC after the current agreement has ended, and also admitted that the WRU could have done more to prevent Emmanuel Faye-Wasobo being lost to England. And he also mentioned a review is taking place of the women's game after Wales finished bottom of the Six Nations. So, yeah, there's quite a few talking points. The full interview is on Scrum 5. If you haven't watched it, I'd urge you all to do it because it was quite interesting. Like I said, Lauren Jenkins did a really good job of interrogating Nigel Walker. Now, Harley and James, I know you watched this. What did you make of Walker's comments? Was there anything there that stood out to you?
Yeah, how useless Nicky Robertson and James Hook were. Have you ever
They will
seen
defend
two
James
blokes?
Hook in a second. But okay.
Have you ever seen two blokes look more uncomfortable in a conversation, or just like the cymbal monkey going like that? That's what's going on in both. And Nicky Robinson's not terrible. I don't hate Nicky. I like him in the Scrum 5 pot, and I like James Hook. He's a nice guy. He's not the best pundit in the world, but he's not the worst. But it's just honestly, Lauren Jenkins is doing all the lifting.
Yeah.
But no, there's a few things there. I think for me, she took him to the cleaners. Like, I've never seen a man squirm so much in my life in that chair. He looked like he shrunk into that chair. But as always, I gotta say, look, fair play for him to doing it. It wouldn't have happened under the last regime. As much
he fronted up, didn't he? In fairness,
as much as the gravy train is very much within Nigel's grasp, he did front up. He did go on. I got commended for that. And actually, I thought when he spoke about the Super Rugby Cymru stuff, you could see him relax a bit more. And I thought he spoke really well around that. And clearly, I think his passion lies within the development of young talent in Wales around coaching and playing and going right down the pyramid in terms of how we get players in from, or what's our talent identification and then retention rate like. So we talked recently about the skills clinic being put on at the Vale every Monday for academy players, things like that. You can see he's clearly really passionate about, and that's quite endearing actually, and quite good to see, because you know, I think 10 years ago when I was flirting around that system, there was nothing like that. It was you did trials at the academy. If you didn't get in, you didn't get in. That was it. You might get put on a reserve list, and that was it. And then that's it. But now from 13 onwards, there's a hopefully now a clearer route. But you just can't escape the stuff around the regional game. You know, I think that they were clearly badgering for him for an answer around cutting a region.
Well, Nicky Robertson was. He was very keen to get that question. It was straight off the bat. He was right.
Have you noticed the Ospreys employee wasn't?
Yes.
But can I just interject on this bit because it is pertinent to this bit? But the moment Nicky Robertson put in the daggers from Hooky was hilarious. They just shot him a look saying, "You fucking, I'm gonna have you."
And the thing is,
there's
a point when he starts up at academy players and academy coaches, he just kept looking at Hook and saying, like yourself. I'm like, all right, mate, calm down. He does the attack at the end of 16. It's like, fucking hell. No, but you can't escape the fact that he waffled and muddled his way through the regional game answers. I think he obviously clearly came in with pre-prepared statements around it. And I think Jenkins' questioning threw him the fuck off. And how direct she was with the line of questioning as well. So, a very mixed bag for Nigel, but in terms of the regional game, she took him to the absolute cleaners. Go on, Harvey.
Yeah, so basically building on your point about him being the development, that's his job. You know, he's in the WRU nominally to be in charge of the development side, you know, the elite performance side. He's not there to deal with the finances and stuff. But unfortunately, he's the only one who's willing to come on camera, so he has to answer these questions. And he's getting flustered because you don't know. It's the same thing as when you know, like when I've been a student, when other students are, and they try and blag an answer, and they can't get their way out. And you basically, you know, that's how you know during these presentations when someone goes through.
Have you got another woman?
What was that?
I don't know.
Was that
Alexa?
Alexa? Sounded like Alexa. Yeah.
I don't know. I think my mum came in. She showed the Alexa on. That's completely. But anyway, it reminds me of these times when people blag their way through answers and they don't really know the answer and they're stuttering and stumbling. I mean, as for the whole thing about the 4 regions going down to 3 or 2 regions being dropped, you know, it's all on the table. This has been consistent with what the WRU have been saying since the last report came through. So I don't really see what's new. I feel like actually although Lauren did a fantastic job, I think a more important thing would be to say, when are we getting these budgets over the line? The pro club signed an agreement with the WRU to say these are our budgets for the next 6 years, so that we don't have to be coming into like the last weekend to say we don't know what our full budget is for next season. And that's where I think they really should kneel down. Never mind the 3, you know, is it 3 + 1, 2 + 1 + 1? He was doing lots of math equations in that statement. But I feel like they went the wrong way with the question. I said EDC, the EDC, which I'm going to keep calling that until it starts, because I'm still one of those people who call it the CIA and the Principality State. And the Principality State has been the Millennium for years.
So the bit for me is I think we're interviewing the wrong person. I want to hear what Abby Tierney's going to say.
She did an interview the same day.
But I've heard conversation. I've spoken to people who've spoken to Abby Tierney, yeah, and the bit that comes through consistently, yeah. So 2 different conversations from 2 different people, right? She wants 3 sides in an Anglo-Welsh league. That comes through really, really clearly from it. That's what she's aiming for. That's what she's going for, and everybody else needs to get in there. And that, to me, just is, well, we haven't really changed, have we? We're still in the way the old lot used to do it. There's a different aim, but we're still doing it the same way. And to hell with everybody. And that's the bit that concerns me, is the fact that You know, we've got somebody that used to work for Suella Braverman, for God's sake, in charge of Welsh Rugby and treating it in pretty much the same way. And that just kind of winds me up. So if all of that is a load of shit, yeah, and actually that's not what she's like, and that's just stuff that she's saying off the record, then go on the record and say, this is what I believe in. Go on the record on Scrum 5 and say, right, here's a list of questions. This is what I want to ask, and this is, this is what I want to get at. Because to me, the whole point of her coming in was to make big, broad, sweeping changes, and I love the SRC. You know, I'm fully on board with that. I think that'll be a huge success. Dropping to 3 sides in an Anglo-Welsh league is pandering to the RFU, and sounds to me like somebody's already banging on the door. Can I have an MBE, please? And that's all she's interested in.
But what Walker said was, sorry, when you took on about the 3 teams, he did say that there's no mechanism for it currently, and it would take agreement from all the parties. So, you know, no one's going to agree to cut their team, are they? You know, to lose all our income. So I think the only way, I mean, me personally, I think the only way we're going to get to 3 teams is if one of our teams goes bust. If one of our teams are in serious financial dire straits, and then that'll be it then. But no one's going to willingly hold their hands up and go, yeah, we'll be cut. And there's no mechanism for it. These are 4 privately owned businesses now. There's no mechanism for it to stand.
But you look at how close.
That's why they're delaying budgets? Sorry, I just want to hop on to Jamie's point there. Do you think that's why, the cynic in me is saying they're fucking about with the budgets again because they know how hand to mouth some of the clubs have been?
No, I think
trying to force a team to fold.
No, I don't think so, because there'll be a lawsuit there. You could argue that in court, and then you just get a payout. You can't. Well, yes, I get what you're saying, and you could say that idea has been floated around for a number of years. The bit that I think Jamie was alluding to there was the fact that they are 4 private businesses, right? They're 4 privately owned businesses with financial backing and boards and everything like that. If the WRU wanted to, and we're working on the assumption that the WRU want to cut down to 3 regions, right? They had their chance last year. They had their chance when Dragons were owned by the Welsh Rugby Union to essentially cease trading and existence of Dragons, right? If that's what they wanted to do, they could have done it and not gone through the sale to David Buttress and co. Jamie, am I right there?
They could have, but don't forget, if that happened, that would have had a huge knock-on effect to the other regions then, because a lot of debt would have been passed to them. That's what David Buttress said in our pod. It wouldn't have been easy, just cut the Dragons, the rest get money. It would have had huge knock-on effects. But yeah, you are right. They could have ceased the Dragons.
If we're working on the cynical view that they want to do that, the other thing is exactly what you just said. Cutting down to 3, a layman now would think that cutting down to 3 means you have more money to spend. Yeah? You know, I've seen multiple things say, if we cut down to 2, we'll have 9-10 million each. I was like, no, we'll just have more fucking debt. That's what people don't get, is the agreement that we've essentially been pushed into signing is that we're gonna take on more debt come any of the regions shutting, right, or any of the regions ceasing to exist. So look, there's a lot there. There's a lot to take in.
So for me, so Dragons have nearly gone bust. Cardiff nearly went bust last year. There's constant rumours about Ospreys, and there's constant questions about how Scarlets are financing their debt and all of that kind of stuff. If we get to that bit where she gets away, it'll be just a pick and choose. And from what I'm getting from those conversations is there isn't a lot of empathy for the game. There's a lot of empathy for the money and where the money comes from and where the money goes to. There's not a lot of empathy for the game and, how we develop the game in Wales. In Wales, the game is more important than 15 guys or 30 guys on a pitch on a Saturday afternoon. You know, it's more important than that. It's part of the culture. It's part of who we are as part of what we do, and that is why it is important that the person at the top of the WRU understands how important the game is and how important it is to have 4 sides. You know, how important it is to have a really top quality development side in the north of the country. Yeah, how important it is to look after players in the middle of the country where there is no big team. You know, Built Wales used to be the biggest team in mid Wales, you know. So the person at the top of the WRU, yes, needs to understand commercial stuff, yes, needs to understand the professional sides, but the game as a whole is bigger than them and their MBE or their CBE or their knighthood or whatever the fuck it is they want to go for. So that's my little. And yes, I haven't watched that interview, Jim. I've got other things on.
You should do. You should take. You know, you can skim through it. It's the last half hour of the show. It is quite, you know, interesting.
I'm just going off conversations that I know people have had with her, and that's the bit that pisses me off. Is she should be the one on the telly. That's what she was brought in to do. She was brought in to be the new head of the WRU. She was brought in to be the person that sits in front of the camera and says, "Do you know what? This is on my shoulders. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and this is what I believe in, and this is what the future is."
Not I get that.
Yeah, and that's the bit that one.
But the problem is, it's well known in Welsh rugby circles that the WRU, like in public, they will say we're sticking with 4. And, you know, for now, behind closed doors, it's well known that they actually want 3 teams. And if a team does go into financial trouble, the WRU are not going to step in. They won't do what they did for the Dragons. That's not going to happen this time. So that is the only way I can see a team that ceases to exist is if they go financially bust. And I think secretly, that's what the WRU would want, because it would make it easier for them. Yeah. They won't say it publicly, but they would much prefer to have 3 teams. So, it's on all the regions to make sure that they're financially competent and, you know, they're sustainable. Because if they're not, there's big trouble ahead. Yeah,
I'd agree on that. Right, let's lighten the mood, James. Let's talk about Corey Hill.
Well, I've made my feelings clear about this on X today. I wasn't going to talk about it tonight, but I will, see as you mentioned it. So Mark Pickering, who's a freelance journalist for a website called rugbyjp.com, he's reporting that Wales are looking into a recall for Corey Hill. So it says rugbyjp.com can exclusively reveal that the Welsh Rugby Union has contacted Seacom Roberts about Hill's status, that's his club, and availability as Warren Gatland's side prepared to tour Australia in July. So Hill's got 32 caps, and you know, I've made this point already. First of all, it's a backward step. I don't think we need Hill. I don't think we want him. I certainly don't want him. Why are we looking at this guy when you got Dav Jenkins, Will Rowlands, Ben Carter, Chris Chunza, James Fender, Hugh Sutton, James Ratty, Seb Davis, etc. We've got options. We don't need Hill. And the whole thing leaves a sour taste in my mouth because we all know what happened, the debt collecting with a single, but we all know that story. We're not getting into it now. It would leave a really sour taste in the mouth if the Welsh Rugby Union recalled him. I've made my thoughts on that. I've got no time for it whatsoever. I don't know what you lot think, but big backward step if it is true.
Yeah. If that turns out to be true, there will be shitstorms everywhere. I don't know a single player or supporter going, "Oh, do you know what? We're really missing Corey Hill."
No, nobody's saying that.
Never seen it anyway.
Nobody's saying that. No.
And maybe Warren Gatland.
But I tell you, we are missing, who we could bring back from Japan. Jake Ball.
Oh,
yes, man.
Yes. We have missed Jake Ball's ball carrying big time. If you're going to bring back experienced international locks from Japan, why don't we go to Jake Ball? Wouldn't you rather that than Corey Hill? Because I certainly
his average is like barely
You're
a
just
metre
jealous
and
because he's
carry.
got a big bushy beard.
I'd
That's what
rather Brent Cobain and his fucking cue ball head come back, or right?
Sorry, the best I can do is a Joe Davis.
Jake Paul is playing semi-pro rugby.
and he's still an animal.
So,
He's still bang up there. He still does what he needs to do to be a pro player, mate. I get how old is he?
Look, he's 32, so he's not.
32,
He's not.
Also doesn't
Not
want
yet.
to.
Yeah,
Mm.
but there's also the Corey Hill thing, right? James is absolutely right. He's an abhorrent human who is an arsehole, right? And I'm glad he didn't get another contract with a Welsh team. He was so abhorrent that the French didn't want him, and they literally employed domestic abusers. And he's playing, was it Division 2 rugby in Japan? He's only playing Div 1.
Mm.
So
he's also 32, who's the same age as Jake Paul, by the way. They're the same age.
and he had his peak. He peaked in 2019. I remember that England performance. He was fucking ace in that game.
He was,
right?
yeah.
And I'm not rubbishing him as a player.
No.
He's a great player, but he made some terrible choices, and he's got to live with that. And also, we've got to accept as the Welsh rugby public, right, that we have to move on and earth new talent. I listened to a podcast recently, and they were talking about the 2005 Lions tour, and Clive Woodward was obsessed with his 2003 England team, and they were basically his safety blankies. So when he felt that it wasn't going well, so who's he going to call? He's going to wait for Tyndall to be fit. He's going to wait for Wilkinson to be fit. Phil Vickery. Do you know what I mean? And Gatland can fall into this trap, really. And he's lucky. We're quite lucky that a lot of that team have now retired. But he could be like, ooh, Corey Hill, safety blankie. Let's bring him back because I know Corey Hill's good. It means I don't have to trust anyone else to perform. So we can't fall into that trap.
Do you just hate these podcasts that just go on about all these games that were played years ago? Hey, oh, they get on your tits, don't they?
I was too young to remember the 05 Lions tour, so it was good here. It was good properly learning about it. I was in fucking.
Can I just say though, you talk about Clive Woodward being obsessed with that 2003 team as if that's not the same 20 odd years later.
True.
Right. Have we got anything else to discuss? Anything? God, let's have a really contentious one, James.
Well, the only other bit of news I got just quickly, Scarlets are in talks to sign Wales tight head prop Henry Thomas from Cast. I don't know how you feel about that, Lee. Do you feel that'd be a good pickup for you?
Oh, it couldn't get much worse, could we? So yeah,
At least it's not from Sale.
Yeah, exactly. Give him 3 games, he'll be out injured. So yeah.
Yeah, so you'll be okay with that one then?
I'll be fine with it. We need something.
Let's be fair, he's only being signed so he can play for Wales.
Yeah.
He played about 4
it's
games
the same,
for Scarlets.
It's the same as Plumtree. Plumtree's come in as you're going to sign him. So.
Plumtree is a fucking money laundering scheme because he's been injured, and now he'll play 2 games for Scarlets, go play for Wales, and rinse and repeat. I bet you.
I genuinely thought when he went down, we'll get onto the game. I genuinely thought when he went down like the first 10 minutes, that was it, and we weren't going to see him again until he was in Australia.
Yeah, until the next World Cup. Yeah.
Massive forward pass as well for that one try. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
I'm not having that. I'm not having that.
It was
aggressively flat.
The first half.
Aggressively flat. Last bit of news then. James, I'm going to come to you this one because you know this guy. Dragons have signed 21-year-old Welsh hooker Ollie Burrows from Exeter Chiefs. The highly rated Ollie Burrows, because he's from Leith, isn't he? He come from the Ospreys Academy.
Highly rated Claxon.
Can you tell me all about highly rated Ollie Burrows, please?
So yeah, he's a product of Leith Athletic RFC, same club that Ruben Morgan Williams came up through. I think Ruben's a couple of years older. Was in and around the Ospreys Academy, really sort of highly sought of, big guy, heavy, quite heavy for a hooker in the modern, in sort of that modern birth, but really good ball skills, comfortable, in playing, had an opportunity to go to Exeter University. At the time, how old is he now? He's 21?
21, yeah.
So I think I'm trying to think who the Ospreys academy. So it would have been like Lewis Lloyd and people like that in the academy at the same time. So I think they just sort of said, well, we're not going to deny you this opportunity to go to Exeter. So he did. He did the same thing as Dad Jenkins and Chris Chinzer and various other players did. Featured heavily for Exeter University RFC. Still coaches at Nice Athletic. Still very close to the club. A theme with the likes of Hawkins and Burrows is they spend all of their free time back in Swansea or Nice. And that's what Burrows was doing. And I know from people that he was happy at Exeter, but really would have liked to come back to Wales. So has spent time out with it's a pretty serious neck injury that kept him on the bench for a while. But yeah, I think that as a player, you've got a good one if you can stay injury free. I genuinely think he reminds me of like an Even Phillips type player, maybe a bit more comfortable on the ball, really physical, really works hard, good arrows. Your fundamentals are great. Get him on form, and I think that you have a good 1 and 2 in Elliot Dee and Ollie Burrows there. So
yeah.
Yeah.
He spent a season on loan at Cornish Pirates, did well by all accounts down there. And according to absolutely. According to Chris Kerwin for the South Wales Argus, he said that Burrows is heavier and taller than every single Dragons hooker on the books.
Well, it's not hard when you've got Bradley Roberts, who is about 4'8".
Yeah, Elliot Dee, all the rest of them, Jumbo, Brody Coyle, he is the heaviest and tallest hooker they'll have on the books. But it will mean the departure of Bradley Roberts, which is a shame because I love Bradley, as you all know. But it's time to move on. And Dragons have made it clear their recruitment policy is to sign big men. And
I also think that it'll help shore up your scrum as well. And as much as I love Elliot Dee, he's not a scrummaging hooker. And that's obvious to see when we'll talk later on. But I think that might help shore up your scrum. It'll certainly take pressure off maybe not perceived to be better ability players like Chris Coleman when you have a big lump beside you.
We'll talk about that later. Lee, that is all the news I have for this week.
Okie dokie. Let us move on to match reviews then. Start on Friday night with Zebra versus Scarlets. Would anybody like to get any cheap shots in to start with? Anybody?
Right. Yes. Yeah. I'll start. Then. Let's go to the Scarlets.
He didn't waste time, did he?
Let's go to the Scarlets. Can I just say, boys Scarlets made that look difficult.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Let's go to the Scarlets.
Fucking hell, boys.
Twitter account.
James needed no invitation there, did he? That's what he said.
It's one of those things I'm going to regret saying that, aren't I?
This is what's going in the trophy cabinet again this season. You've got the we've got the best fans who travel away award.
Are you on that forum again?
No, I'm on your Twitter feed, mate.
Right. Okay.
So we've got the best fans of the year trophy. That's going to go in there.
Some of it was really.
That's going to
really
sit.
good.
That's going to sit next to the we beat Zebra by the most points award out of all four regions.
What was your score against Zebra, James? Remind me of your score against.
34-31.
So point out to me which bit of that tweet is non-factual.
It's sad, is what it is.
No,
it's not factual.
Point out to me.
This is where we've
point
got
out
to.
to me which bit of that tweet is not true.
Beating a bunch of Italian taxi drivers
by more than you.
By more than what? By 18.
By more than you. Did we beat them by more? Did we beat them by more than you?
That's going to sit next to our fans are old and retired, so therefore.
Did we beat them by more than you?
We've got the. We've got a good back row award because they played well against Zebra. So no, I just there was a lot of on that forum, right? My favorite thing was, and Jamie pointed out on X, that Scarlets fans have got themselves into a bit of a frenzy that, oh, we could finish above Cardiff, yeah, hello. Hello, we could finish above Cardiff. And then Cardiff went and won by 5 points.
I want to bring the honourable gentleman back to the question he refused to answer a few minutes ago.
We beat Zebra. What the fuck are you on about?
Who beat Zebra by more? Was the
Why
question.
is
Doesn't
this the
matter.
thing you're hanging your hat
Because
on?
you were the one that brought it up, Jane. The point was,
because you're the one who tweeted, and you can take that to the bank. Them words
Absolutely.
were put onto the internet.
You
Yeah,
can take that to the
absolutely.
bank. That wasn't me, was it? Was that
Fucking
you who
right,
tweeted that?
No, that was you. That was
So
you.
it's Catboy, wasn't it?
Yeah. But
That was
it's-
funny. You
That's
can take that
worse.
to the bank.
Do you know
He's
what you
supposed
get?
to be the sensible one.
Can I put a point of order in? Scarlets do not get the best travelling fans award because that is obviously Munster. Just stop it.
No,
And
That's
two,
true.
Ospreys
True.
went with a weakened team away to Zebra. Or was that Benetton they
Mm.
went away? Doesn't
we
matter.
went to
The
a
point is-
Benetton, that
away
was-
to Benetton. We
Yeah.
had Zebra. at
Benetton,
home.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, you should
So-
have beaten them by more then.
The
There's a
point.
team that were lucky to draw.
Yeah, the point on Friday was, you know, is just, and we've been saying it for a while. You just need to build a bit of confidence that the game is improving, the defense is improving slowly, not as much as we want to, but it's improving slowly. The attack is improving slowly. You know, we're actually starting to run and pass the fucking ball, which just wasn't happening in the first.
Unless you're Dan Davis.
He doesn't need to, mate. He can run through a brick wall. So
Maybe he
you know,
didn't.
we're in one of those bits where do you know what? I don't care if it's Zebra, it's a win, and it was an improved performance. It was a definite improved performance. It ain't perfect, and it ain't going to be perfect for a while. But if we keep improving, and you know, little small steps, then everybody's going to have to just kind of live with that until we get to that bit where it's all kind of firing again. Because you know, there were some bits of that game that were really, really good, and there were some bits of that game that we were just shocking. You know, so I thought the back row actually worked really, really well, and I think the difference is having balance there. You know, Tupelo had another really strong game, got through a hell of a lot of work. You know, you've got I mean, Plumtree's pass was about 3 foot forward, but that's
Oh
not.
my god, it was horrific.
That's not
It
the
was
point.
fucking awful.
Should never have stood. Should
I
never
mean,
have stood.
Even the fact that it wasn't even looked at, but the touch judge was right next to it, so I thought,
Yeah.
you know, maybe the camera angles make it look a bit wonky, or maybe, and then you look at it from a different camera angle and you go, no, still.
When you have perennial piss taker Ed Jenks saying it was forward, right? You know you fucked up.
Yeah, it looks forward when you're looking at it from behind the posts. When you're looking at it down the pitch, it looks forward when you're looking at it vertically. So, but you know, sometimes you just got to live with, you got a little bit of luck and you've got to go with it. You know, what I was impressed with, like I said, impressed with Tupelo too. I was impressed with Eddie James and his meters beyond contact, because he was literally, you know, 10, 15 meters. There was one where he had about 3 different sets of contact on the same run. So he's really starting to show what he can do now. Sean Evans made an impact off the bench. Johan Lloyd isn't a 10. I'm sorry, we've tried him. Johan Lloyd is not a 10. Stick him at 15. But you've got Johan Nicholas at 15 playing really well. So, you know, it's one of those things that they're going to have to make hard decisions. But yeah, for me, Johan Lloyd just isn't playing 10 the way we need to play. We when Costello came on, it was controlled. It was more. It was comfortable. It never felt in the second half. Well, when Costello came on, it didn't feel like we were gonna fuck anything up. Put it that way.
I actually think a part of that was Hardy as well. I think Hardy played really well when he came on, which is a shame because obviously he's leaving, and there was rightly questions about why he was playing and not Archie. But I actually think Hardy came on, he brought a bit of pace. I don't think Gareth Davis had his best game at all.
Oh, that kick was just fucking shocking. But to go back to Archie and Titcombe, apparently they're being kept together, playing together.
Then put them both on the bench.
Yeah, there's just that's the plan. That's the plan. Keep them together. They're playing together, and then they come through.
But this is where Dwayne is falling down. He's planning. Stop. This is how you got into this mess.
It's like when the Ospreys throw the ball about, it just goes wrong. Just play it in rugby. You're really good at it.
Yeah.
So just don't plan. Do the thing that no one's expecting, and that's what fucks people over.
So win's a win. We got the win on the board. It does mean there's a very, very unlikely chance that if Cardiff need to get no points at all on Judgment Day,
you can't beat us.
You can't beat us. They're on 30 points.
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
I can give you an update of the table as far as the Welsh regions are concerned, if you want.
Also, how did you watch the game? Because you put in WhatsApp that I'm only half watching. And so
I was.
In there.
When they were losing, when Scarlets were losing, he texted, I'm only half watching, only interested. Then when they start winning, he's fucking texting all the time. It's funny now, isn't it? It's funny how the messages start pouring in when you start winning.
Yeah.
I think I sent about 3 messages in the second half, please. No, it was I was kind of distracted, but I was distracted watching the Cardiff game as well. So it was. I watched the game on mute. That's how weird it was. It's very strange watching a game on mute. But
not a bad thing if Carfrey saw with his commentating.
I was going to say, depending on who the commentators are,
Mason
sometimes
Green,
I do that
the
anyway.
Sky King.
I put the game on, and the first 5 minutes. But the first 5 minutes in the studio was Hook and
Cuthbert
discussing what shirts to wear. I go, fucking hell, we're going downhill on
so
this.
I wanted to talk.
The wife said, mute it. I went, happily, there you go.
Even me now, die-hard Ospreys fan, I watched it because I was on the train up to London. So I put it on, and was it Catch and Hell or whatever it is. And then you had Hooky, who is obviously Osprey through and through, right? And then Cathy, who's obviously Cardiff for Ospreys. Yeah, he was a traitor. And I'm like, right, okay, surely they've got like some Scarlet, they've got to have a Scarlet on co-coms, like, or they'll have Guthrie somewhere who's Kueli boy. No,
that's where that time keeps coming up when I insult them in Central Pod.
And even as a Scar, and the first thing they did was have shirt banter because they both turned up in the same shirt. That's unfunny. And they started talking about the piss and Ospreys. I was like, don't get me wrong, lads, love the free publicity, but like talk about the Make-A-Wish kids. Like, come on.
I mean, Foxy's literally doing jack shit at the moment for the Scarlets.
Yep.
Get him on Scrum 5.
Do you know who Foxy does his media work for? Bloody Haskell. That's who he goes because he goes on his pod all the time.
Yeah, he does.
He goes on that good bad rugby.
Wait to ruin a good player for me.
Anyway, let's. Do we want to do Ospreys Dragons last, or
Derby last? I think.
Okay,
we'll talk about. I mean, I can sum it quite quickly.
Go on then.
Cardiff remain unbeaten against Sharks.
I thought
do you know what? If the Sharks were serious about not losing again, then maybe they should have shown Cardiff some bloody respect and actually fielded an actual team. A team of people who know where the tackle line is.
Mate, there was a guy on the wing who had to borrow a pair of boots off the touch judge. Yeah, that's how low down they were going.
Well, if that's the level of respect we're going to get shown, do you know what? Fine. At least we were nice and we let them score 2 tries. And we let them score because fucking hell, that was comical.
Well, you have to say that's a step down on last year where you nilled them at home.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it's like it doesn't have the same ring. Do you remember when we nilled the Sharks? Do you remember when we let 2 easy tries in against the Sharks? It's just not the same. I thought it was a good effort.
What positives do you take out of the game now, Harley?
Ben Thomas plays very good against second teams as a 10. Halaholo looked the best he has all season because he's not been thrown into the 13 channel, which is always his worst of the 2 centre-backs anyway. Can win it despite being actually assaulted by 2 Sharks players. Managed to be excellent as always. James Botham, fantastic game, 3 turnovers, plenty of tackles. Alan Lawrence out of nowhere has shown that shown some of the potential when he first sort of came along. I'm hoping the club sign him up properly, because at the moment he's been on like a month-by-month rolling contract. So it'd be nice to get him secured down, because I think he'd be a fantastic squad option. Because Big Mac's going to be going away quite a lot. Scrum again in South Africa's gone really well. I don't know what's going on there. Frank Murphy had Cardiff on one side of the coin, and that was the one that ended up on top. It's the only thing I can answer for that one. But I'll be honest, a big thing part of me was I'm just really disappointed by the effort from the Sharks. Like, I know it was their second 15, like 20 players left. But even still, you still had like experienced operators like Chamber Boatland who had absolute stinkers. This was a game Sharks needed to win to get some sort of pride. And in the first 10 minutes, when it was all Sharks, they weren't kicking at goals or anything. Then Cardiff basically out South African to South African pack, got over, red card because of a fucking piss poor tackle. Like, just there's no excuse for how bad it was. And the other guy should have had at least a yellow. It was just shit. And even then, I still didn't believe we were going to win until the 80th minute when Frank Murphy blew the whistle.
Okay. So, but let's be fair, Sharks are more interested in qualifying for Europe through winning. So
yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day,
you play who's in front of you.
The important thing is at the next season, they're not going to see that as, it was only a second season. They'll see we've got another win. We didn't finish below the Scarlets, which would have been we might as well we should have been the club to fold if we finished below Scarlets, because the season they've had.
Somebody's spoiling for a fight.
In front of you. I know you beat was put in front of you. Yeah, okay, that Sharks team was a bin juice team, and they were down to 40 men. Does it matter? No, because any win in South Africa is to be cherished. It's a tough place to go. That's not Cardiff's fault.
There was a lot of on that forum, but from some other from Osprey fans as well. I think on the Facebook group saying like, why is it that Cardiff get to play the bin juice from South Africa, and we had to play X, Y, and Z, and I get from Scarlet's point of view, you go up there right at the start of the season where they're going to be playing their first team because
but South they weren't Africa, because all their box were with.
Yeah, they did.
Exactly. In World Cup. No.
Yeah.
And that's what someone pointed out. But Scarlets fans don't like to hear facts, right? And my team's 4 from 5 against a South African opposition this year.
I know, man. And very.
He can't help it. Could he get that in? He had to get that in.
We played.
He's coming for you next.
And our worst loss against the South African side is 12 points. So we're
not.
We all have stories, man.
Right, let's do Ospreys and Dragons before Jesus Christ, I'm gonna punch the screen in a minute. Right, let's do Ospreys Dragons.
So Jamie, go first then. You tell us today, Jamie.
Get your handbags out and start bitching. Go on.
You want me to go first, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, I was there, yeah. We were good for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. We were good for the first half hour. Our defence was solid. We had to soak up a lot of pressure, won some turnover ball. And we were frustrating the Ospreys. You could feel that in the stadium as well. The supporters around were starting to get frustrated. Ospreys were trying to force things. We knew that they needed 4 tries for that bonus point, and it wasn't quite working. And they thought we were quite dogged in our opening half hour. So far, so good. And then it starts to turn Dragonsy. So Aaron Wainwright picks up that yellow card. No complaints. He came in from the side. He was warned twice by Ben Bixby. Away, he didn't do that. So he got yellow carded. No issue with that. And then they score, of course. And then after that, an unbelievably dumb yellow card by Dane Blacker. I honestly don't know what he was thinking. Slapping the ball out of Tipurick's hands like that and in an offside position when there was absolutely no need to do it. Ospreys weren't going anywhere. They were on the halfway line. There was no need to do it. And, of course, he does that. And in fairness, it was a very well-worked try from the Ospreys. That's clearly been perfected on the training field. Lovely offload for Morgan Morris. And then Ruben Morgan-Williams goes over the try line. And that was an absolute killer just before half-time, because Aaron Wainwright was due to come on the field like seconds later. And that really did kill us. And it spoiled, actually, what was a decent first half from the Dragons. If we held the Ospreys out, that wouldn't have been so bad. But the second half, then, we just see what we've seen from the Dragons pretty much all season. Poor discipline, compounding errors, poor execution, disintegrating scrum. I mean, poor old Chris Coleman. I just want to put my arm around it now. I generally feel sorry for the guy. Like Nicky Smith took him to the cleaners, and I do feel sorry for him because he's clearly not up to this standard, and it's not his fault. We got no other options at tight end, but he's so out of his depth, this level, poor bloke. But yeah, our scrum was just pretty awful, wasn't it? As it has been for most of the season. 20 penalties conceded by the Dragons, which is, well, it's just not good enough, is it? Discipline has been a huge problem for us all season. You are not going to win games conceding that many penalties. And it was pretty clear that we got on the wrong side of the ref early in that game, which meant that we weren't getting any 50-50s because we lost him. We just lost him for our own, indiscipline. And that meant that we weren't getting anything out of the ref. Having said that, mind, we still had opportunities to come away from that game with a bonus point and maybe even a win. We left a lot of points out there. We did butcher a couple of tries. If Lonsdale hadn't knocked on and if Ross's offload hadn't gone forward, that could have been a very nervy finish for the Ospreys and we might have come away with a bonus point. But yeah, it's just really disappointing, wasn't it? It's not really good enough. You expect Dragons to be, fighting to the end, and it just seems it's the same old stories. And I play well for a few minutes and then just completely collapse. But some quick shout outs then. I thought Ewan Rosser was very good at fullback, and he definitely needs to play at 15 on Judgment Day. He needs to keep hold of the shirt. Will Reid had his best performance of the season. I thought he did very well. I have criticised him a few times for his error count, but I thought he did very well. He scored all our points. Did a very good job at scrum half, actually, when Dave Blacker went off. Chris Hollis is going to get better with more game time. You can tell that he hasn't had a lot of game time. He's not quite match sharp yet, but when he had the ball, he made some really good carries, so I was impressed with him. Remember the name Joe Westwood. Now, how good was Joe Westwood off the bench for the Dragons? He was cutting open Ospreys at will. He was so dangerous every time he had the ball in, and he's only 20 years old. And I'm really excited about the centre prospects that we got now at the Dragons. You got Harry Ackerman, you got Joe Westwood, and Naira Owen. We've got the lad coming over from the Waratahs as well. So I'm really excited about it. I think he's got some good depth there now. But look, no complaints from me. The Ospreys were the better team. I think the difference was they were clinical and we wasn't. We gifted them easy points and our discipline played our part. They scored 12 of their points against 14 men, and then they scored 7 points against 13. So, yeah, we made it easy for the Ospreys. I'm disappointed, but yeah, it's just same old story for the Dragons, isn't it? Compounding errors, discipline, poor scrum. We've seen this kind of performance far too many times. So, yeah, the Ospreys deserved winners, I think.
Hey, James, I thought you were very well behaved there while Jamie was talking. Go on, you were. Let it all out, son. Let it go.
I agree. I couldn't actually get to watch the first half because we were taking the baby out in Brighton for the day, and so we were trying to find a pub that wasn't full to watch the first half, and we were trying to coincide with the feed. So I only caught I literally caught both yellow cards, and then I managed to catch the second half. So I watched the first half back yesterday, and it's very true when a team is has a specific goal to meet in a match in terms of you have to get 5 points, so you have to get a win. You do stupid things. So the Ospreys turned down 18 kickable points, or 18 points worth of kickable penalties in the first half, right? Because they wanted the tries. So they were making stupid decisions because they needed the tries. My local team, when we were in basically first and second for the league, we had to, when we played the other team that were competing for the league with us, we basically had to make sure they left with nothing. As long as we got the win and they left with nothing, but then that activates a different mindset in your team to go out and do things you don't normally do. So when Harley says you're going out checking the ball about a bit more, it's because you're so desperate to get over the line. Because it doesn't matter about conversions, it doesn't matter about penalties, as long as you get the win and 4 tries. I don't care if we won 20-0 because we scored 4 or 5 pointers. You know what I mean? So from that perspective, we made the Dragons look very good in that first half because we were just kept being shit, and kept doing stupid things and things like that. And then the second half, it was by no means a vintage Osprey performance, but what it was effective. Dragons go down to 14. We score. The Dane Blacko one, you see, right? Well, we got the yellow card. I might as well go for the corner. And you can see Ruben, if you watch it back, you see Ruben Morgan Williams' eyes light up, basically, because he's like, oh, let's run this set play as he runs over. And it's very well executed. Morgan Morris, man, I think it was Rugby AP or Jared Wright highlighted it on Twitter, to go for the track, if you're going to use an American football term, the bounce off, but then to be able to angle your body to get the offload in, that's so good. That is such an underrated skill, because you're doing two different things to try and get through someone and get around it. So that was a well worked try. The Kieran Williams one is a bit contentious for a lot of people. I know Jamie and I were talking about back and forth on it. The issue is not, because you compare it to the Steph Hughes one against the Stormers. It was the Stormers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. There's
the
very little difference.
Yeah, the issue is it's not whether it's a try or a no try; it's the consistency around it. So you can't not give it 1 week and then give it the week after. For me, they're both tries. They're both. I said at the time the Steph Hughes was a try. Same with the Kieran Williams one. It was just a very workmanlike performance. I think we clearly have a hangover from the last 2 games, but it's great to see Dewi Lake back. It's great to see Jack Morgan back, come out fit. Dewi Lake on his 50th, getting 2 tries. Dan Edwards had to do a lot of controlling of the game, which he's not had to do before, and I thought he did very well. Kicked well. I thought Jack Welsh went very well from fullback. He clearly identified that Dragons maybe don't push the kick hard enough, so he was running a lot from fullback. I thought he ran very well. Obviously, Tom Florence had to come in very last minute for Owen Watkin, who pulled out for personal reasons. I hope everything's okay with Owen. Sending thoughts and prayers. He's clearly a specimen, but he's clearly a guy who hasn't played any rugby because of horrific injuries. And Justin Tipperick, man, he's my other one. Fuck me, the guy gets everywhere. The Joe Westwood break that Dragons put out stuff is brilliant, but then Justin Tipperick to get back and make that last ditch tackle on Dane Blacker, I think it was. It's just, he's 34 and he just moves like a 20-year-old. So yeah, it wasn't the best team performance, but there were some standouts. I think, just listing off the top of my head, Kieran Williams, defensive, both sides of the ball was very physical, putting a lot of dominant hits. Tipperick, Nicky Smith in his last game took Chris Coleman to the cleaners. Very sad to see him go. He is up there, and some great comments afterwards in the press conference by Booth. Morgan Morrison running out of superlatives, and I thought Ruben Morgan Williams had a good game from 9. Really controlled the game well.
Yeah, they were just clinical, weren't they? That was the difference with the Ospreys. They were clinical.
I don't think they necessarily were as well, but to be fair. But one thing, like the whole thing of like rushing out to get the 4 tries, it's something that it's gripped my shit with a lot of teams. A try bonus point is 1 try every 20 minutes. It's actually not, it's not like you're trying to rush and get them in the last 10. You don't have to do it straight away. And I don't want to be kicking the dog when it's down, but with the Dragons, actually going that 3, 6, 9, 12 against the Dragons, they are quite mentally frail, and if you start hitting them and making these points, they are going to start, their heads are going to drop, they are going to let in stupid tries. Which I hope I'm not being unfair there, Jamie, but
there is
like
that.
they do drop, and I do feel like Ospreys were a bit naive and they get away with it against teams like Cardiff and the Dragons. But like I feel like sometimes they go away from what works really well for them. Like South Africa don't stop being South Africa just because someone said they need to go and play expanded rugby. Ospreys shouldn't stop being the Ospreys because they've been told they're going through the back, because they could easily get 4 or 5 tries just by being big and physical.
I get what you're saying.
They can flat track bullies.
But
I mean, again, it's the players on the pitch that decide that.
we suffer from chronic lack of 22 entries-itis, right? So the fact that what they're trying to do is they recognise that the Dragons are going to keep giving away soft penalties, right? Is that the Dragons gave away 12 in the first half. So if they can maximise that, because they know if they go for the maul, Dragons are going to give away a penalty at the maul, so just go for another one. When you're suffering, Dragons and Ospreys, but they had the same amount of 22 entries. But one of them came with 26 points, one of them came away with 13, and two of them, I think, were kicked outside. So I get what you're saying, but we clearly just wanted to maximise what we were doing in the 22 rather than going out and chasing it. So yeah, I thought Ben Breakspear was good as well. For a second ever URC game, got to give him kudos. Thought he got the big calls right. No ref is ever going to get the 50-50s right all the time. But I think the main calls, i.e. the yellow cards, he got spot on.
Yeah, I got to change my opinion because I know in the group chat I was quite critical of him, but when I watched the game back, like you said, he got all the big calls right. He actually had a decent game.
It's always different when you're there in the stadium.
Oh yeah, Ospreys were straying offside a few times.
I agree.
Yeah, they were straight offside
wrong.
a few times.
Sun was
But
in
then
the
that's not the
Dragons'
ref's job.
eyes.
You know, that's
Wonky
the
line
touchline,
outs,
just-
but yeah, I know that, but still, there's little things like that. But yeah,
They are changing one of
okay.
the line-out laws next
that's
year,
one
aren't
thing
they?
we
So
haven't discussed in the last 2 weeks of news is that World Rugby are changing the wonky lineouts rule.
yeah, so if a team doesn't compete, doesn't matter if it's not straight. So Ryan Elias is about to have 100% line-out accuracy for the rest of his career.
Oh, boys, we got all
No,
summer
because
to talk
everyone
about
just throw
that.
someone in the air.
That's for another time, I
Right,
think.
that's another time. Right,
Yeah.
let's really,
There
really.
is one last thing. One last thing.
Go on, be quick.
Congratulations, the Ospreys. You've wrapped up the Welsh Shield.
Come on.
You cannot be overtaken. You now
the
have
car
the
park
Parkgate
out,
Hotel
lads.
hubcap.
Speaking of Welsh competitions, into Welsh competitions, let's have a look at
You
this
just said we had to
very,
wrap this
very,
up, and now you're getting
very,
everything
very
spreadsheet
quickly.
saved.
Yes, very, very quickly. Harley,
I love
run
how
us through
Lee
it.
shares this one on the 1 week where he has. I mean, we
Fucking
might as
right
well
I
skip
do.
ahead. I did shit. Let's go
Yes.
through. But
Yeah,
Lee
there we go.
was
There we go.
top predictor for all 3 games this weekend, which just proves even a broken cock is right twice a day.
And he
Absolutely,
only
boys.
watched about 20 minutes of one game.
I wouldn't go that
One of
far.
the games, he was still off by 20 odd points.
And I still came top. So where are we, Harley? So you're top there.
Yeah, I'm
on...
top on 174. Jamie has managed to close up the gap a bit because I had an absolute shocker. So he's on 165. Lee has now jumped up into 3rd place with 135, and he's making me sick by moving the screen constantly. And then James is last on 131, but I said there's only 4 points in it, so I mean that could change after Judgment Day.
Yeah, 8 points.
And I feel like we make Judgment Day worth double because there's only 2 games.
Oh, that throws a whole. Jamie could overtake you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Let's do it.
Dear.
Let's do it.
Oh, God, Jamie's woken up all of a sudden.
Yes,
Jamie's
let's
like, right,
do it.
okay, let's have
Let's
it.
make it fun. Why not?
Let's put some
Okay.
real money on it.
Fucking hell. Right, gents, is there anything particularly exciting happening on pods this week? All I've got on Scarlett's pods is talking about the Drovers and what have you. Anybody got any special interviews lined up? Harley's not allowed to say because he still doesn't know if he's still got a really, really exciting, interesting one to line up. But if it's not this week, it'll be next week, won't it?
I haven't
Yes,
messaged around to say anything, so
He'll probably be some good player or another.
Yeah.
well, we
some
might
old
look
shit.
at the last time we played Cardiff at the Cardiff City Stadium.
Surely you've got to do that for the next week.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
we need something to do this week.
Right,
Keep
gents.
bored otherwise.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. So if anybody is interested, go right back to what we spoke about at the start. We are going to be launching a SRC, thank you, podcast. So that is taking shape. We're test running that this week, and hopefully we'll have that up and running through the summer with some summer specials. If you do want to give us a follow on Twitter, that's the best way to start with. Other than that, gents, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's been a pleasure as always. Just leaves me to say enjoy your rugby. I shall see you again next week. All the best.
Take care,
Hasta
everybody.
luego.
Goodbye.